All right, I think we're recording here. We're recording now. All right, welcome to the latest episode of the Big Hair Big Licks podcast. On the podcast today, I've got one of my good buddies, a hell of a guitar player, a hell of a musician, a blues man, Mr. Dylan Buchkowski. Very nice to have you on the podcast today. Thank you so much for your time and for doing this. How you doing?
Good. I'm surprised. I thought you were going to have two guests the way you started introducing me.
No, man. What next? when I say it, I mean it with all sincerity. Like watching you play, like if we just kick right off into it, I recently joined you guys at Times Changed to honor the amazing Ronnie Lindsay there. That was such a fun night. Joining you in the band was a real treat. But a big part of it for me was just getting to play guitar with you finally. Like you had mentioned at the practice there, we played so many shows. We've known each other for so many years, and this was the first time we've actually like played together. And I just got to say, you are an unreal musician. Like, amazing.
Well, hey, I appreciate it, man. But the pleasure was all ours, man. For such a great cause too. It was a fantastic time to share a stage, and definitely one of the more notable stages in town to do it on too. So it was fantastic. Couldn't ask for anything better.
That's awesome. Yeah. And we'll talk about Times Change later on and everything and just like venues around the city. But I want to go to the very beginning with you. How did you get your start in music? How did you pick up a guitar? How did you start playing guitar? Were you always into blues music? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's I started off like I would assume a lot of guitar players do, listening to the classic rock genre, and I was really big into Aerosmith and the Doors and AC/DC, and I didn't know that they were just for the most part the albums that I liked were amped up blues, especially those early Australian AC/DC records, and those were my favorite, and I wanted to play guitar because I loved AC/DC and I thought it was cool. I thought it'd be something fun. And so I got a guitar. I got lessons from my neighbor. And I'd sit at home and try to, learn these songs like the Jack or Show Business, the real early stuff. Baby, Please Don't Go. And then in 2004, Aerosmith put out their blues album called Honkin' on Bobo. And at first I heard it, I was like, I don't like this. And then like a week later, I listened to it again. I was like, oh my God. I was like, this is it. This is like the coolest thing ever. And like, I just love these songs that were on there. It was like Roadrunner, Backpack Train, I'm Ready. And then I started looking at the writing credits, and it said like, written by McKinley Morganfield or Elias McDaniel. And I was like, well, who are these guys? And I learned that it was Bo Diddley and Muddy Waters. And then I started listening to them, and I wanted to start, imitating them on guitar, and who did they listen to? And it just goes snowballs back and back and back. So it was a journey. I mean, it's still a journey. You're always checking out new artists, new songs, new styles. But it's an enjoyable one.
No, for sure. That's fantastic. It's so cool to see how I just always find it funny how like a band like AC/DC in the mainstream, like they're played on like every radio station around the world type of thing. But if you really break down what their influences are, like you said, it's all the blues and the origin of the blues, and it all comes from there. And it's really cool when you get a chance to kind of go back, like start at one band and then kind of break their influences down, like you were saying. That's a really cool journey. Is there a specific artist or like a specific moment in your music journey where you were kind of like, I'll break it down into two questions. Was there a specific artist you listened to where you were like, yeah, this is what I'm going to do the rest of my life? And to follow that up, was there a specific moment when you started going on your journey in music where you were like, yeah, this is it. This is what I love?
Yeah. Apps, when I was younger, being like when I started doing this, I was like 16, 17. Sometimes my dad or my grandpa came with me to the bar to get me in, and they'd let me, play a set or two. And back then, I was, I didn't have a band, so it was all about like the solo musicians, and I was really big into John Lee Hooker. That was my first guy. But then when I got to Robert Johnson, I was like, oh man, I was like, it doesn't get any better than this. I mean, I still think that today. He's probably the best guitar player who ever lived. But yeah, like I just tried picking up as many Robert Johnson songs as I could. I started playing slide for Bottleneck per se in the genre, and I just tried my best to do that. And then we started getting players and started getting a band together and regular sets and gigs. We try to make full band versions of these songs, which obviously we're not the first to do it. So I mean, we did a lot of versions of Robert Johnson songs. And then to fast forward is when we got Dusty and one of our past drummers, Jim Hawkins, in the band. It kind of came full circle to me, that I had like this like reborn love of AC/DC, and I just couldn't get over, like we said, the amped up blues. But for me, it was the tightness, just the finesse. And they play 3 or 4 chords. They're so simple. Well, you play those 3 or 4 chords that tight, like nobody gets that. And that's kind of the takeaway that I got was, okay, well, we're never going to be an AC/DC or a powerhouse band like that. But, let's try to play tight like that. Let's try to play crisp and keep it together and keep that tempo locked in. And so to the second part of that question is I kind of thought we started achieving some of that when we had Jim in the band, because I mean he's in Winnipeg's Phil Rudd, he wants to walk and talk like Phil. So I think that really jived well with the timing of everything, especially putting that first album out with him on it. It was the stars kind of aligned.
That's fantastic. We'll go into your first album, and I want to specifically break down that first album release show you had, because I got to tell you a cool story about that day. But let's kind of break down the journey again. The first time I ever saw you was at the Royal George. You had gotten called up to play, and remember you plugged in and you played like a few notes, and I was like, I had just started kind of going to these jams and kind of like seeing like what's up, what are some of the most killer players out there. And as soon as you started playing, I was like, oh damn, this guy brings it. And it was just really cool because it gives you, I find like open mics and jam nights and stuff like that, getting to see other players that you may not play with, or may not even get to go watch their shows as much, is a really good experience, a really good learning experience. um, I noticed that you frequent a lot of open mics and open jams. How would you say that has like been a part of your journey? Like, is that kind of how you met the guys you're playing with now, or how did talk a little bit about like that journey coming up, and then how you put your band together that you have now?
Yeah, I mean, definitely when I was younger, it was just kind of going out, and for me, it was a night out. It was repetition. I was probably just gonna sit at home, play guitar anyway, so might as well go to a jam, get my feet on a stage, and try some. Maybe I was working on a certain run or something, and it was a good opportunity to do that. But it's definitely great to go out and meet people, and that's why I met Steve Sarens, our sax player in the Deadbeats. Met him at the Royal Albert Jam in I think 2009, and he always said, I'll be in your, I'll come to your show, but I'm not going to be in your band." Here we are in 2023, and I don't think we've ever gotten a formal commitment for Steve. He's just along for the ride. But we met Jack through the same means, and Steve, and Jack kind of been the core of the Deadbeats for years. In late 2016, I got reconnected with Dusty via social media. We grew up together. We went to elementary, middle, high school together, all the way through, and we hadn't, I don't think, seen each other really since graduation. And then and believe it or not, we did graduate. But he was living a couple streets over. We said, why don't you come down? I remember you were a singer when we were younger. I know he wasn't deep into the blues. He's more of a rock guy, but that's kind of what we were looking for. Somebody new, somebody who could bring some fresh ideas, and we just had him come down, and it worked out well. It was like catching up with an old friend, really, and we've grown closer, and over the years, and it's it's you're very lucky to get to do it with people you really grow to care about. And then our drummer Thor, we actually met at a social. I almost bumped him with my truck. Is how we met him. And then a couple of months later, we seen each other again at someone else's show, and we got talking and went to a few jams. We were looking for a drummer. He was looking for a band. So we said, wow, let's give this a go. And here we are, 3 years later now with Thor. We are back in the band. So it's always a great way to get out, connect, and just network with people. It's never a bad thing going out, making contacts, showing face, showing support. It's never going to do you wrong.
100%. I definitely agree with that. I think that's such a just like showing up and being there, like even if you don't play, just kind of like being in the scene and showing that support, or supporting somebody's jam or something like that. Like I remember you guys always came out to my jams, which was much appreciated when I was hosting them in Selkirk. Like it's really cool how the music community in Winnipeg is like so tight knit. Like when you look at the big picture, it's huge, but it's not really. Everybody knows somebody who knows somebody who knows that next person, and it's really cool. It's really cool to see how connected it is there. And one thing I wanted to comment on your band, just being a part of your band practice there, was like you guys have so much fun. It was really it's really refreshing to see like you guys are like friends, but a band but friends, and you all care about each other. And I always love you and Dusty's relationship, like how like sometimes you guys will go do acoustic gigs or whichever, but you're always that tight knit group, and I think that really speaks volumes for how tight the band is. Just that connection on another level, which brings the band to another level, which is really cool. Um, so to kind of break down, you recorded "Don't Tell Nobody," and that's your first album you did under the DB and the Deadbeats name, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Cool.
Back in 2018.
Right on. That's fantastic. And then, so when you were putting together that album, was it all kind of like songs? Like I told you, that riff is so killer and "Don't Tell Nobody." That is so fun and so catchy. Did you guys write that all together, or was that like ideas that you kind of had that you brought to the table? How did the writing process go for that?
It was really a mixed bag. Some songs we had been doing for a few years. Some songs I wrote when I was like 18, like Blow Some Blues, Don't Tell Nobody. Or sorry, Blow Some Blues and Not a King. I had, that song, those songs for a while, and then I brought them to the band, and we kind of all put our own spin on them. Blues Town, it's original that we have as a band that was written before I was even born, which I don't think a lot of bands can say that. But Jack wrote that back in the mid '80s when he lived in Thunder Bay. So we put that on the album. So I would say about half of it was pre-existing, and then the other half, the really fun half, was we took, it was like 6 or 7 months off. We didn't have any gigs. We got together at least once or twice a week. We came down here. Sometimes we had no idea what we were going to do. We just kind of hang out, have some blues playing in the background, and just kind of waited for a spark. And somebody either had a lyric that they wanted to expand on, or thought they had a hook, or maybe some chords were coming together. And then we kind of station off where Steve and Dusty would be at the bar writing the lyrics, trying to put different phrases together. Whereas me and Jack were kind of over, okay, well, what kind of feel, what do we want to do with this? getting some chords, getting some licks together. And then that was when Jim was in the band, and then we presented to Jim, and he put his part to it, and we'd figure out what worked and didn't work. So it was both very individual but very communal as well. So it was a very fun period. We were going for a certain amount of songs for the album, and we had 2 weeks, and we were short 2 songs. So we basically said to each other, well, we got 2 weeks, let's see what we could bang out. And the last 2 songs that we wrote were All Cats Are Gray and Rumors, and Rumors is probably my favorite song on the list. So it was it was kind of get it done under the gun kind of thing.
Well, that is awesome. Few things I wanted to touch in there. I noticed like you guys gig heavy, like you're gigging consistently, constantly. Taking that time off to write, was that kind of like for a band that gigs so much, were you kind of like, was that time off to write refreshing in a way, or was it kind of like was there a push while you were writing to be like, let's put this out so we can go play shows again? What was the band mentality with that?
Really, it was, we gave ourselves hard deadlines when we started the process. I know we recorded in late March. I think it was like August, September. We're like, hey, let's pull the plug on gigs. We're gonna do our one toy drive gig in December. That's gonna be our only appearance. And yeah, it was totally refreshing. It was so much fun. We knew we had a deadline to meet, so it was work at this. We had the release party booked in September that year, so we had from March to September, as I said, as a deadline where we had master it, punch in any mistakes we had to make. We had to do the artwork. We had to get them pressed. We had a lot to take care of. Put the show together. And no, it was completely refreshing. And we never had anything like that in the past in the band, so it was a very cool, fun experience. But how we play in the last couple of years, the frequency, I think it's because of the album and doing original music that we have more of these opportunities, because we were never playing as often as we are now. We were playing, once a month before, and now it's, I think last August we did, I think 8 shows in a month. And in the summer, a lot of them are on the road, like, surrounding towns. We'll go to Brandon, to Portage, places like that. This year we're going to Winkler. I did some side work in Regina this year. So it's these doors, I think, really start to open when you actually sit down and put in the work and write an original album. So it was kind of putting the chicken and the egg, right? You want to gig, but you need stuff to play, and you got stuff you want to play that you want to gig with. So it, like I said, the stars just aligned perfectly for that first project.
Well, that is fantastic. And then talk a little bit about that CD release show, because I have my own story with that, and I think it's kind of wholesome, but just talk about like putting that together, how you felt, because from what I saw, you guys sold out the park. Like there was one moment when I was standing in the crowd and I could barely like move around. There were so many people. How was it, like, that experience putting together that album release? What were you feeling? Talk a little bit about that.
First of all, is how the hell are we gonna fill this theater? It was panic that we're like, oh, I hope we don't we're playing to a quarter full. But we gained traction early. We were selling tickets in advance, and I think Jack said it the best: is nothing draws a crowd like a crowd. And before we realized that, we sold 50, we sold 100, we sold 200, we sold 300, 400. It was like, holy crap! Like this thing's taken off. So we knew it was going to be a big show, but we didn't certainly expect the love and support from everybody who was there that night. And it was surreal. It's definitely one of the best gigs I've ever played on the fun scale. It really took off. And a funny story before that was it was a Saturday night that we played the Park Theater, and the Thursday night we had gone to the Belgian club, and we weren't going to jam. We just went for a beer. I think we had our last minute rehearsal, or we were discussing something, meeting or whatever. And we decided to go for a beer after, and they were actually scalping our tickets in front of us. That I think a couple paid $80 for a pair of tickets, and we were selling at $10 each. So it yeah, it was it was kind of a different feeling seeing that, and it's not something you experience every day. And so that was kind of my one fun takeaway of that, is seeing somebody scalp your own tickets.
That's wild. That holy smokes. Well, I remember coming to the show and standing in the crowd, and you guys hit the stage, and it was just like a punch in the face. You guys sounded so tight, and it was awesome. You look around, everybody's dancing, having a good time. At one point, I moved to the back by the sound booth there at the park, and I just kind of like, for a second, I stopped and I looked around, and I saw the whole friggin' park theater like sold out. Like people could barely move. There's so many people, and I remember this conversation that we had years and years and years ago. This must have been like 2013, 2014. We went and had a beer at the St. B, and I remember we were talking about like where we wanted to take our bands and what we wanted to do. And I remember we were both kind of like we were like both plotting like these moves and talking about it, and kind of how like holy shit, we're out here putting in the work, like we're in the trenches, like gig after gig, one person after another spreading the word. And I just like felt really proud of you in that moment when I saw you sold out the friggin' park theater. I was like, hard work pays off. That's what this is. That is 100% what this is. So it's really cool to see that. I just had to share that story.
Hey man, I appreciate that. I remember that exact night we were talking about, and I thought of that. When we come to see, or I come see you, and I think the same thing too. And we were talking about, oh man, how do we get people to the shows? How do we get into these better bars and stuff? And I remember it was maybe 2 or 3 years after that, I came with my now wife. We came and seen you at the Cavern, and man, that was an awesome show. Like I remember just like feeling the music hit me, man. Like it was like physically hit me. You were just pounding your SG, and it was awesome. And it was packed, and you couldn't get a drink. It was awesome. So yeah, good on you too, man. We've definitely put in the hours, and it's nice to start seeing some fruits.
For sure, 100%. It's nice to see that hard work pays off, especially especially throughout so many years of like doing it. Gibson SG, cutting into a segue here. Let's talk a little bit about your guitars, because I was blown away by how many guitars you have, and they're like all just gorgeous. Like, and going back, you were saying AC/DC is an influence. Watching you on stage play your SG, I'm like, that is total Angus Young. Like the way you make a Gibson SG sound is just unreal. Like that's how a Gibson SG should sound. Is that one of your favorite guitars? Talk a little bit about what some of your favorite guitars are and what you like to use.
Yeah, no doubt the Gibson SG is the workhorse for me. That's at pretty much every show. For years, I was using a trainer amp, tube amp, but then I realized, like, oh god, like if we're playing, somewhere out of town, or we put a lot of small towns too, like if we're out in Ashton or Plum Coulee, and I start getting a tube going, it's like, oh man, like I'm the only guitar player, but there's nothing to rely on. So I'm totally that cliche Gibson Marshall combination now, and that's how I really like to dig into it. But the SG is kind of a Franken SG. Years ago at a club called Just Jazz, it was downtown on Portage Avenue. I think it was like their closing night. We played to like 3:30 in the morning. They were still selling liquor because they're going out of business. Who cares if we get fined, kind of thing. And our then drummer accidentally bumped my SG off the front of the stage, and it popped the headstock off.
Oh no!
And so it was gone. I didn't have an SG anymore. About a year later, I met somebody who was licensed by Gibson to buy the wood from the factory in Tennessee, and he brought it up for me, and he put all the guts from that SG into the new one. So it's kind of a Franken SG. It's got old pickups in it, old hardware, but it's a 2015 body, and it's a 24 fret SG, which my understanding was they only made them 1 year. It was for Les Paul's would have been 100th birthday. So it's a very special guitar. Some of the other ones I've really grown fond of is I was a Strat guy for years and years and years. I still like my Strats. I got a couple of them, but over the pandemic I bought a Gibson Junior, and man, that's a fun little guitar. I know it was like the exact same model you had at one point.
Yeah.
And I just love that thing. It's a simple meat and potatoes guitar, just one pickup, one volume knob, and you're good to go. So it's kind of my new toy. I've also bought a Gibson Explorer, which screams blues guitar. But I bought it from Dean, and he's like, "Oh, just try." He's like, "Take it home, try it, give it one rehearsal." He's like, "It was like a Tuesday." He's like, "I know you guys rehearse Wednesdays." He's like, "Just use it." He's like, "You'll come back, pay me Thursday." I was like, "All right, sure, whatever." And I got it home, and I just love the clarity in the pickups. Like that's what I find a good guitar, is how clear it is, where you can hear your lows, you can hear your mids, you can hear the highs all at the same time, and that it's responsive, it sounds good. I don't use any pedals, so it's got to have some oomph to get the job done for what we do. And lastly, one of my favorite guitars that I picked up at just the very start of the pandemic is I started listening to a lot of country music. Like, I'm not talking like today's country and stuff like that. I'm the old rebel country, and I really, really got into Waylon Jennings and Willie Nelson, and I love that sound so much. I went out and I got a nylon string guitar just to kind of play at home and noodle with. And you alluded to how sometimes we do these acoustic gigs, and I never thought I would be a nylon string player, which once again probably doesn't scream blues or blues rock, but it's just a nice tool to have in the bag. And I never thought that I would be so comfortable playing a nylon string guitar and playing old Delta stuff on it. And I just very surprised, but I think it's a win-win.
That is fantastic. Yeah, it's going back to the Gibson Explorer there. When I saw it, all I saw were like shades of Gary Moore, like with his Explorer there. That's super cool. So you were saying that like you use Marshall amps. You've got all these beautiful guitars there. What are some of the tones that you like to go for in terms of? I'm gonna get guitar nerdy now here. What are some of like the tones that you like to go for in terms of like studio work and stuff? Like I really love the tone on your first record there for guitar. Is there like a certain way you set your amp?
Yeah, it's I'm a straight set it and forget it guy. I I have like a pre-save on my amp. I'm a solid state guy. I know people bug me all the time. You should play tubes, but I mean, I think that the quality of the amp is it's a good amp's going to be a good amp, and no matter what you do, no matter what you argue, tone is all in the fingers. No matter who you are, what skill level you are, so you just gotta learn how to make the guitar sound like you want it, how to control the strings, and kind of manipulate it. Um, so whether it be studio tone or stage tone, I'm just kind of want something that bites, that's balanced, that the lows are low, the highs are highs, and that's not just going to be a wall of noise. So if we're in the studio, I want to replicate the stage as much as I can in the studio. We recorded everything live off the floor. There's maybe one or two little punches here and there, which is going to happen on any recording process. Nothing's going to be perfect. So yeah, in the studio, just trying to replicate live. I think that's the best way to go for what we do. And there's it's kind of no bull. We're not going to pull any punches.
Oh, I love that. I love that. That's fantastic. So coming back to doing these podcasts, I kind of want to stay from like everybody always asks now, like, so we had that pandemic and nobody got to play anywhere and do anything for like blah 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 blah. I'm not gonna talk so much about that, but I would love to hear kind of like how you felt your first gig back, like when you first hit the stage again. What was that feeling like? And what are kind of some of your plans for the future going forward?
Yeah, first show back was a duo show, and we didn't realize at the time that it was technically illegal with all the restrictions that they had. I won't say where we did it, but it was a little patio. It's maybe about 50, 60 people, and it was just a little duo thing. We didn't really get to rehearse all that much with the restrictions of no people in the households kind of thing. So we got together a few times, and it was very different because pre-pandemic, I don't think we had ever played a gig just duo, me and Dusty. We did a little live stream at on Mother's Day in 2020, but I think it was slightly before that we did this show. So it was exciting, but it was very nerve wracking, and you know we were the only show in town that night, so it wasn't very hard to put 50, 60 people on a patio to come see you. So it was it was a different feeling for sure, especially when you felt the eyes like sunburn when you got nowhere to hide without a band behind you and stuff like that. So it was very interesting and something I hope we never have to do again.
For sure, no, 100%. What are some of your plans going forward? Like now that everything is back full, like in full action. What are some of your plans for the future with the band?
Definitely want to slow down the pace a little on the live stuff. Everybody's getting busier, and it's just been very hectic the last couple of years, and it's been great. Like you can't say you don't love it. We've been so lucky with the opportunities we've had both in and out of Winnipeg, and it's just been so much fun. But I mean, I got a second kid coming on the way, and
Congratulations.
yeah, thank you, thank you. The guys are getting older too, and they got other things they want to do as well. It's great to be on stage, but it's got to be a balance, and it hasn't been the last few years. So just try to get a little bit more balance in that. So play shows not as often, but we definitely want to focus more on doing another all original album. So we're in the process of that. We've done a few sessions. We got I'd say about two or three more originals that recorded that are in the process of getting mastered. We got about another two on the workbench that are almost ready, and so we got about maybe another three or four songs that we still need to write. But there's no timeline on it. We're kind of just taking it as it comes, and when a song comes to us, we'll do our best to capture it, see where we want to go with it, and then yeah, just kind of wash, rinse, and repeat. Play live, hit the studio, record, do a release party every year or two, and see how long we can milk that.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that, and I love your attitude towards it all because like I find myself I get too much in my head. Like this year for myself, I haven't really done much with music. It's been really weird, and I start like it starts to creep in your head. You're like, should I be doing more? Should I be doing more? But it's like you said, like life is happening all around us too. Like we've got other responsibilities and stuff, which leads me to my next question, which I want to ask you. Um, Man, how do you balance being a dad, being a husband, being a musician? How do you balance all of that? Because I know I'm trying to figure it out myself now that I'm a dad, and it's not easy. So I'm always interested to hear like how do you balance it?
An understanding wife helps.
Very fair.
She knows that this is always what I've wanted to do with my life, and I mean, not that it's a living or anything, but it's definitely passion project. But it's for us, it's kind of taking things day by day, kind of limit the out of town stuff, the overnight as much as we can. But she knows opportunities are going to come up, and it's important to take those opportunities. Yeah, and just about balance. If I got a gig on a Saturday night in the summer, and the boys are going golfing Sunday, it's like, wow, I'm going to be out playing guitar on Saturday. So, instead of going out golfing Sunday, it's time to hit the couch and put some Pepper Pig on or something like that.
That's fantastic. I love that.
Yeah, it's all about balance and understanding, and so far it seems to be working. Hopefully, when this airs, that it's still working.
Fantastic. No, I love that. I love that so much. The We'll kind of start to wind it down here. One of the questions I always like to ask guests who come on is, what do you or what would you offer as advice to up and coming musicians, or what would you say is like the most piece? Let me frame it two ways. Sorry. What is the most important piece of information you've ever been given, and what is some information you would give somebody who's up and coming in music?
The advice I've been given. Oh, Jesus, that's good. That's a really good question. Um, be on time, keep your word, don't be fake, be humble. It's the kind of the points that I've gotten over the years. I would stress all of those to anybody that would be listening to my direction. The biggest one I would say would be check the ego at the door. We're all in this together, and have fun. That's what we're all doing. If we've had in our band, we have the mentality $1,000,000 or bust. So if nobody's making 1,000,000, let's just roll with whatever's out there, whatever comes our way, and just have fun. That's why we're all doing it. If anybody says that they're not doing it for fun, that it's about the music, and you got to take it more serious, man, you're gonna make a fool of yourself in the end, because it is all about fun, and music needs to be fun. If you're playing music as a business, I would never envy a person like that.
I love that. I love that answer so much because over the years, like my thoughts have changed on that. Like now, I think very much the same way you do. Like if it's not fun, why are we doing it? Why are we putting in the time? Like, and the last question I'll ask you is, what is some advice that you would give to a guitar player who says, "I want to be just like Dylan"? What is my next step? I just got my first guitar. Um, what would you say to that kid there?
Get rid of the pedals.
Get rid of the pedals.
Get rid of the pedals. Learn your theory. Know what you're playing, because I didn't do that, and I had to backtrack many years, because it's so easy to go on the internet and I like this Rolling Stones song, or that's a cool intro by Muddy Waters, and I can punch that in on YouTube and learn how to play that. But if you don't know what you're playing, it's gonna come back to bite you, because it bit me when I was younger. And I got on stage and I was playing with guys, and I'm like, oh, that sounds cool. I wonder what that is. I mean, obviously that's always going to happen. At some point, you're going to hear somebody, oh man, what was that? But it was the real simple stuff that I had no idea what was going on with. And not that I'm a music theory. I mean, I'm all about feel, all about playing by ear. I'll do as much as I can to figure it out, but it might not be note for note. But just get rid of the pedals and know what you're playing. Learn to pick up the tone and make the amp do the work, not the pedals.
I love that. I love that. There were many times going to the Royal George Jam where the guys would be like, "All right, we're playing in the key of C." I'm like, "What the fuck is the key of C? Can we play in the key of E?"
That's third fret on the fifth string, right?
Third fret on the fifth string. Why does it sound weird? Oh, C major, not C minor.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
it's all part of learning, and that's something that's so easy to overlook in this day and age, or just you grab the chords off a tab or off a YouTube video and you think you're good to go, but if you want to get serious about it and get into a band and write, you're gonna need those pillars before you can pitch the tent.
Exactly. Yeah. Hard. Going back to what we were saying before, hard work pays off. Well, I really thank you for your time today, Dylan. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I look forward to seeing you play again. Congratulations on your second baby on the way there. Congratulations on all your success, and I wish you the best, my friend. Thank you so much.
Hey, thanks, man, and likewise. I look forward to seeing you on a stage soon.
Right on. Take care. Have a good one. All right.